Hello and welcome to another episode of Trust Check, where every week we are in the business of bringing you verdicts on viral claims made on and off social media that garnered a lot of reactions. My name is Hajara Hosseini. With the 2023 general elections coming closer, many candidates have continued to make assertions without verification, and these claims keep circulating with the help of their supporters on and off the social media space. These claims are mostly found to be false or misleading. That is why we remind you of the importance of verifying information that seems too good to be true. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Trust Check. This week we take on multiple claims made in light of the upcoming elections. The first claim was made by the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his policy document, where he mentioned that he would focus on sectors ranging from economy to security and education if elected. He also noted that his government would focus mainly on teaming youth population facing unemployment challenges in the country. He further added that youths aged between the ages of 15 and 35 years account for over 65% or over 130 million of the population in Nigeria. In verifying his assertion, TrustCheck carried out a manual search and investigations revealed that his claim is inaccurate. How did we come about that? Well, according to Worldometer, Nigeria's population was over 200 million in July 2022. While the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs released the World Population Prospects 2022 and said the world population could grow to 8.5 billion in 2030. The report also estimated that Nigeria would likely be the third most populated country with 375 million people and youth who will account for about 262 million of the population. Similarly, in an earlier report, the United Nations noted that the African continent has the youngest population in the world, with about 70% of sub-Saharan Africa under 30 years. However, statistics showed that half of the country's population is under 18 years, with the highest age bracket being children under 4 years at 16.3%. This is closely followed by children aged 5 to 9 years, stating that Nigeria has one of the youngest populations in the world. Also, data from the World Bank in 2021 showed that people aged 0 to 14 years old form a major part of Nigeria's population, representing 43.3% of the total population, with those aged 15 to 64 years old making up to 53.7% of the population, and those between the ages of 65 and above make up the least part of the population, with 2.98% of the total population. Based on available data from verifiable bodies, TrustCheck can confirm that there is insufficient evidence to support Tinubu's assertion that 130 million Nigerians, or 65% of Nigeria's 200 million population, represents youth aged 15 to 35 years. The second claim was made by a frontline campaigner for the Atiku Okowa presidency. Reno Omokri, using his Twitter handle at Reno Omokri, said the Dangote refinery has shut down due to the importation of cheap tomato paste from Europe. Omokri also accused Peter Obi of the Labour Party of being behind the importation of cheap tomato paste. Omokri, an aide to former President Goodluck Jonathan, is very active on social media, especially on Twitter. In his tweet earlier in December 2022, he said Dangote's tomato paste factory in Kano had to close shop due to massive importation of cheap foreign tomato paste from Europe. Guess who is behind that importation? Peter Obi. He expects the millions of Kano people affected by his exploitation to vote for him. The tweet garnered a lot of reactions from Twitter users and was shared across different platforms. In verifying the claim, TrustCheck sought to ascertain the real situation at the Dangote tomato paste factory in the Kadawa area of Kano State, and findings showed that there are a lot of factors responsible for the insufficient functioning of the factory, and one of the major factors is an insufficient supply of quality tomato to be processed into finished products. It was also understood that the 1,200 tons per day plant that processes tomatoes was experiencing supply hitches as a result of overwhelming national demand. Also, the factory, considered the largest on the continent, can only produce at 1/5 of its capacity as a result of the low supply, thereby hindering its aim to reduce Nigerians' reliance on imported tomato paste from China and other countries. As such, the production demand of the factory to date has not been met as farmers struggle to make tomatoes available, especially at the time the country is battling with food shortages due to widespread insecurity in the northwest region where Kano is located. A resident of Kano who is a farmer and also familiar with the challenges facing the factory, Munir Lawan, told TrustCheck that importation is not even part of the challenges facing the factory. According to him, the site the factory is located is quite far from where the tomato farmers reside, which is in faraway villages that are hard for vehicles to travel to and convey tomatoes to the factory. He added that the demand for tomatoes is quite high as most of them farmers also supply to the southern part of the country. As such, the supply gap is just the problem, not forgetting the insecurity too, as many farmers cannot access their farms. So for Dangote Tomato Paste Factory, it hasn't been operational for a full year due to inadequate supply. Following inquiries and verification by TrustCheck, it is concluded that supply challenges are hindering the tomato factory from performing at full capacity against the claim that the factory has packed up. As such, the claim is false. Going forward to verify the second part of the tweet, TrustCheck could not independently verify if Peter Obi or any of his companies is accredited or certified to import the product into the country in the first place. However, TrustCheck found that several companies are certified to import tomatoes into Nigeria, including the Dangote Group. A letter obtained by TrustCheck from the Department of Technical Services at the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning showed the approvals for some companies. The list, which was tagged List of Approved Investors with Backward Integration Program to import tomato paste or concentrate not put up for retail sale, had a total of 9 investors and companies approved for the importation of tomatoes into the country with their quota allocations. Accordingly, Conservaria Africana Limited had a quota allocation of 42,000 metric tons, closely followed by Caraway Africa Nigeria Limited with 2,000 metric tons quota. Also, Dangote Farms Limited had 19,000 MT, while Sonia Farms Limited, Tomato Juice, and Erisco Foods Limited had 7,000 MT, 6,000 MT, and 2,000 MT, among others. Consequently, these certified companies have been processing and producing tomato paste in Nigeria. Following findings by TrustCheck, the claim that Peter Obi's import of cheap tomatoes is responsible for Dangote's factory shutting down is misleading. Now for a segment of Need to Know, we'll be looking at the dangers of the new Lagos Rail project. The Lagos State government recently conducted a test ride of the first phase of its yet-to-be-commissioned Blue Rail Line project. The 13-kilometer electric-powered rail is from Mile 2 to Marina with 5 stations, and it is expected to ferry 250,000 passengers daily when it commences operations. Before then, the managing director of the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, Lamata Abimbola Akinaju, warned residents of the state not to trespass on the rail line because it is electrified, advising them to make use of pedestrian bridges to avoid being electrocuted. Let's take a look.
With the Red Line, we've spoken about the stations, we've spoken about the track work. We mustn't forget the very, very important work that is going on with regard to the overpasses, which will ensure that we have safe passage of vehicles over the rail tracks, to ensure that we have separation of vehicular transportation from our rail transportation, and indeed also pedestrian transportation. So those 4 overpasses that we have been doing, they're on track. The one at Ikeja, Yaba, Mushin, Oyingbo. For us, it is to ensure that these will be ready before the full completion of the infrastructure for the rail. And as we are very sure that we'll be able to complete those bridges by end of November. The one that could drag a little bit will be the one in Mushin, but even that will be completed by the beginning of December.
What is a third rail line? According to an online publication by Agrico Group, the third rail, also called conductor rail, is a type of train powered by electric energy on 2 steel rails. It explained that in order to supply power to the train, a live rail is added next to the railway, which is the third rail. The third rail is usually located between 2 rails or outside one of the steel rails. The collector, which connects the train with the electrified rail, also called contact shoe of an electric train, touches and slides on an electric third rail to transmit electricity to the train. Another publication stated that the advantages of the rail were that it was cost-effective, less affected by natural disasters, and reduced maintenance workload. However, the use of electricity on the tracks makes it dangerous for humans and animals. The Network Rail, an NGO that creates awareness of the dangers of third rail lines, noted, "The third rail is probably one of the most difficult dangers to see." It said carrying 750 volts, the track is very easy to kill, as the current that flows through is 3 times as powerful as your home electricity. It's designed to send power to the train, but with 70% water and the perfect conductor, it will pull a person in and not let go until the emergency services are able to switch the power off. Just as Lamata expressed fear that the fence it erected on the rail tracks could be vandalized, they believe that walking along the tracks due to train routes being shorter than roads or highways is another threat for trespassers to use it. A report by the BBC said the electrified tracks poses a great danger in parts of the UK where third rails are used, with 49 deaths recorded in 2010 due to trespassers easily touching the rail line accidentally. It added that if the problem is not solved by having overhead power lines instead, in wet weather the electricity can arc through the air and hit people 4 feet away. In both cases, the power is left on overnight, which many people do not realize, making it dangerous for both children and adults. While we bring you weekly reports on false information circulating on and off social media, a simple way to stop the spread of fake news is to verify any information before sharing them. Always remember that fake news causes damage with irreversible effects. For more details on the fact check, visit www.trustcheck.dailytrust.com and follow us on all our social media platforms at Trust TV News. Until I come your way next week, I am Hajara Hussaini.